Right, it's time for business, and Sandra Fenu has joined me. And as I indicated earlier, PDS is still part of the conversation, and Sandra is going to take up the extra leg of the conversation.
Yeah, you know, this whole issue, a lot have been asking, what were the processes that led to where we are now? And also the issue of, are we likely to pay judgment debt? And we'll be getting some answers in business.
Right. Now, you see, all of this, one of the things I am hoping could happen, and it's possible that could happen, is that government may look at whatever wrong has been committed and say, can it be remedied? And if it's remedied, can we continue with a contract?
But I'm particularly worried about the signal we are sending to the business community, having contracts and having to suspend it later on. What are we saying about the processes?
Well, once fraud is established, we
are good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Well, let's do business. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, says government has a right to abrogate PDS contracts if fraud is established. Head of Policy Unit at ACEP, Paulina Anaman, says the contract was a fundamental condition for the deal, and once there are hints of fraud, government has the legitimate right to end it. She, however, added PDS could head to court, but government remains the innocent party in this particular instance.
Very thing that will provide guarantee to PDS in case of default does not exist, and what exists is fraudulent. This is a condition for the contract to proceed, but this condition was non-existent or was not handled ab initio. So that means government as an innocent party reserves the right to abrogate the contract. Okay, but PDS may say government has abrogated the contract in bad faith, and so they want to go to court. When they take the issue to court, there are options available to PDS. They can ask the court an equitable remedy of specific performance, which says government must perform according to the contract. But government also has an option to raise an objection of fraudulent misrepresentation. Fraudulent misrepresentation is an automatic defense against any claim for specific performance. So that is what governments can do. The issue about judgment debt comes from the rescission. Judgment debt means, so judgment debt also comes up when you as a party to the contract decides to abrogate the contract for any reason without, doing your part. Okay, so for example, I'm in a contract, government is in a contract with PDS without any cause. Government tells PDS, we want to abrogate your contract. In that instance, we have to pay PDS some damages, which the courts will decide on, right? But remember that I mentioned that fraudulent misrepresentation is an automatic defense against specific performance. So the issue of judgment that I don't.
Away from that, the National Food and Buffer Stock Company has received a check for 50 million cedis from the ADB Bank for grain purchases for farmers, mainly under the Planting for Food and Job Initiative. Managing Director of ADB Bank, John Kofi Mensah, says the presentation is part of efforts by the bank to strengthen the agri sector.
The 50 million cedi check was presented by ADB Bank to the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, which was an increase from last year's amount of 20 million cedis. The amount will assist the company purchase grains from farmers, mainly under the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. According to the Managing Director of ADB, they are hopeful the contribution will help address some of the challenges in the agri sector.
We have accelerated our inputs in terms of finance into agriculture. We have moved it up, and we believe that we have to encourage the farmers to produce more. We also have to encourage, because once the productivity is moving up, our portfolio will also be doing well. We have to reduce post-harvest losses. We have to guarantee prices to farmers. And ADB will also develop, the balance sheet will grow better, the whole nation will grow, employment will be on the ascendancy, because now we are talking about value chain financing, agri-value chain financing.
CEO of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, Hanan Abdul Wahab, explained to Joy Business the funds received will be used to acquire grains for the Free SHS program and other government institutions.
From 2017 till date, there is an increase in production under the Planting for Food and Jobs. and more farmers are on board of the program, and we are also expecting increase in production. So the 50 million Ghana cedis is actually going to be used to purchase excess grains from farmers through our licenses, registered licenses buying companies. But we are actually looking out to mobilize what we think it can sustain government program like the free senior high school program, where we are looking at least about 500,000 bags of maize to sustain the program now that we are having third years coming on board.
The 50 million Ghana cedis is the first tranche of a total of 200 million Ghana cedis the bank intends to support the National Food and Buffer Stock Company with. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
The International Financial Corporation, IFC, has bemoaned the low rate of gender parity in Ghana's executive boardrooms at the launch of a publication on the Trailblazers portrait of female business leadership in emerging and frontier markets at the World Bank office in Ghana. First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo urged the business community to see women as key to economic growth.
A recent study on women on company boards in Ghana by the International Finance Corporation, IFC, reveals that more gender-diverse boards tend to demonstrate higher performance, which is reflected by returns on assets and growth in sales. Despite this, nearly 1/4 of Ghanaian companies have no women on their boards. Speaking at the launch of the publication Trailblazers, Portraits of Female Business Leaders in Accra, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo admonished the business community to appreciate the role women play in Ghana's economic prospects.
Push to balance the gender skills in business leadership is absolutely critical for us in Ghana and indeed for all of Africa. Women-owned businesses create jobs. Companies with diverse leadership cultivate the kind of creativity and innovation that leads to brand new products and services.
The publication saw Ghana's Nora Bannerman of Sleek Garment Exports Limited and Africa's Sleek Institute of Creativity and Technology selected among 4 women from emerging and frontier markets in Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa to highlight their personal and career journey as women.
My mother gave me 1 sewing machine. My dad gave me a 3-bedroom house. So from 1 sewing machine, I now have a 300 machine factory. From a 3-bedroom bungalow, I now have a 22 square feet factory that can employ 1,000 people at full capacity. 1 sewing machine is what I'm talking about. Yeah. A father who believed in me. Friends who gave me fabrics to do it, shows. I end up on international platforms. Some of my thoughts of exposing what I had to do was sewing for first ladies in Africa, including Winnie Mandela. At the time, it was Mrs. Rawlings, Uffe Boyne's wife, you know, etc., etc. Yeah. And that's what we women do. So invest in women.
Meanwhile, organizers of the event, the IFC, pledged financial support for a gender-balanced role in Ghana's boardrooms.
Inspiring stories to the summaries now, and the Supreme Court has ruled mining leases granted Exton Cubic owned by Ibrahim Mahama actually is invalid. We have details coming up in the local news summaries.
Supreme Court has ruled that mining leases granted to Exton Cubic owned by Ibrahim Mahama is invalid, void and of no effect. The court also held that the lease granted Exton Cubic did not comply with mandatory statutory provisions of the Minerals and Mining Act, Article 268 of the Constitution. The GNA reports government's agenda of revamping the railways to facilitate vibrant economic activities is on course and is still high on its priority projects. According to Finance Minister Kenneth Oyata, government has initiated several projects in the railway sector, stressing that the Ghana Railway Company Limited had completed the rehabilitation of the 30-kilometer narrow gauge railway line from Accra to Tema, which had enabled the restoration of passenger rail services on the corridor.
All right, Hi, to watch and join News Prime. My name is Sandra Esenam, and I'm back with the second half of business. Now, low interest rates are essential to a well-functioning economy. In Ghana, our rates are a bit high, and the president is asking we work towards dropping them to the level where businesses can easily borrow. But is this achievable, and what more can we learn about interest rates? Philip Namfuri brings us another edition of Breaking It Down.
Right. Welcome to another edition of Breaking It Down with me, Philip Nanfuri. I'm going to put something on the board for you to look at. It's a number. (27.68%). This is the average rate on loans in Ghana as we speak. And this is data from the Bank of Ghana. I want to re-echo this number for you. So there it is. 27.68%. 27.68%. That's how much you'll be paying on your loan if you walk into a bank or a financial institution. Now, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, says, we want to work towards bringing interest rates down to a single digit. Now, let me explain how interest rates work. A very simple model. When you walk into a financial institution and they accept your deposit, you would want something on that deposit, perhaps as an investment. So you will say, give me 15% on it. Right. So let's call that 15%. What you're going to pay on what the bank is going to pay you on your deposit. But you know that banks are gathering money from all manner of people. And if they want to give loans out, they'll have to give loans out at a correspondingly higher interest rate. So let's say the bank will give the loan out at 20%. Now, the difference between these two rates is called the interest rate spread. And that's how banks make their money. So the difference between the rates they pay on deposits and then the rates they pay on loans, the difference is what we call the interest rate spread. And this is where banks are going to make their money from. So you have brought 15% to the bank, it's going to lend to somebody at 20%. The difference, the bank will take it and maybe give you some on your investment. So that's essentially the basic form of how they make their money. Now, getting interest rates down to a single digit requires a number of things. Apart from this affecting interest rates in the country, I'm sure you've heard of bad loans or non-performing loans. That also goes into how banks price or how banks determine their interest rates. Apart from that, the inflation rate in the country. Apart from that also, the city's depreciation or the bank's charges. These are many factors that feed into the cost of interest rates and why we have this figure of 27.68%. You know now, the number of banks have come down in the country to 23, right? From days of 36 and so on. We ask ourselves, there are so many institutions in the country, but you see, the cost of the banks accessing the money is one of the key reasons why interest rates are high. When you go into a financial institution, you're looking for high interest rates on your deposits. Obviously, the banks gather this money to lend. That's their primary function. So if they gather this money at a high interest rate, they obviously have to lend it at a higher interest rate to make their money. And that's what we call the interest rate spread. Now, getting interest rates down to a single digit, it's possible, but it will take some time given our economic situation. And it will require, 1, a stable economy, 2, stable inflation, 3, stable exchange rates, lower costs of getting funds. So when you go into a financial institution and you're asking for high rates on your deposits, you are affecting the interest rates in the economy on loans. So these things will have to all be held in place over a long period of time for interest rates to come down to levels of 6, 7, 8, 9%. That's a single digit we are looking for, and that's what the president is asking, that the institutions in the country work towards making things stable. So it behoves on all of us, on government itself, on the Bank of Ghana, on other regulators in the Ghanaian economy to ensure that we try and bring down interest rates so that you and I can borrow. Because at such high interest rates, I don't think you'd want to go for a loan. I wouldn't go for a loan. I took a loan from Sandra this afternoon. She gave me 500 Ghana cedis at 0%. So I have to pay her only back this 500 Ghana cedis. Imagine Sandra charged me 30% on this loan or on this 500 Ghana cedis. I have to be looking for money elsewhere to be paying her back. And this is why we need lower interest rates on our loans so that businesses can function. So anytime you are going to a financial institution, be wary and ask yourself, if you really need the money you are going for, think twice before you walk in and take that loan. But for me, I'm sorted out. Sandra has given me my money. You can see very nice, fresh, bundled already. And I'm going to spend it on some lunch. I like food. What do you like? This is the business edition of Breaking It Down with me, Philip Nanfuri. And to the corner is Sandra, looking on her money as I go and spend it. Do have a good day. Bye.
All right, so Philip Nanfuri is always hype. Maybe I may have to start a savings and loans company in the office here, but trust him to always make it simple. To the commodity markets now, where crude oil actually made some gains to trade at $65.15 a barrel. Gold went for $1,425.68 an ounce. Details of activities in the trading market up next in Commodity News. It's bye-bye on Business with me, Sandra S. And I'm happy to see you same time tomorrow, but there's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Have a great evening.